Hello, this video is going to be over the region snare piece. This should be etude number 4. If you have the book, it's the advanced snare drum book, so you should have this one. Okay, alright. So let's just start. What I want to do is give you guys like a measure by measure breakdown, so that you can refer back to this video and be able to practice anytime you want. And hopefully that'll help you like as you make progress. And then after I'll do a full recording of the whole thing at a like 50% tempo and then like 75% and then all the way at tempo. And I'll have the metronome going with that, and that might be a way to help you practice, have something to play with that's not just a digital play along track or something. You can see some of the techniques and stuff. So let's just start right at the beginning. Okay, notice that we're in 4/4 time. Remember, the top number in a time signature tells us how many beats are in a measure. The bottom number tells us what note receives the beat, what value receives the beat. So the 4 means quarter note, right? 4 quarter notes for a regular bar of music, right? A non-odd meter. Okay. Quarter note is 76. That's the tempo. Okay. So you'll put your quarter note at 76 on your metronome, and that is the beat. And you'll have 4 of those beats per measure. Right, so let's get started right away. Right off the bat, the first thing we have is a dotted 8th note. Now remember what a dot does to a note to help you figure this rhythm out. A dot adds half of the rhythm's original value. Okay, so if we have a 8th note here, okay, and we're wanting to add on an additional half of its value, we have to first figure out what is an 8th note doubled, basically, okay? And that's a 16th note, right? 2 16th notes fit inside of an 8th note. And since the dot is going to add half of its value, we're going to add an additional 16th note to that. A lot of you already know basically this rhythm as a dotted 8th 16th. If you're using one-eanda counting or one-ti-ta, if you're a one-eanda person, it's 1, a 2, a 3. We've seen that before, okay? Or one-ti-ta. So 1, ta 2, ta 3, ta 4, and then like another syllable that sometimes is used just to get the right speed and are accurate is day, today, today, today. All right. So now this one has a little wrinkle in it, right? You see that it has 2 30-second notes. But don't let that confuse you, because if we just take the dotted 8th note by itself, that clears up like where that occurs for. So that's just going to occur on the but instead of playing 1, a 2, we're gonna have 2 notes in that in the section, or the ta section. So it's gonna be 1 to 2. I'll play it for you on the drum. And with the metronome here, for this video right now, we're like 10 under, okay? So we're like 66, 67 beats a minute. So that's our first 2 beats of music. Once more. If we move on to beat 3, well, that's straightforward. It's just a beat of 16th notes. 3 ti-ta, 3 e-anda. And then beat 4 is exactly the same as beats 1 and 2. So I'll play that first measure a few times for you. I heard that time I rushed those 16th notes a little bit. So when you're practicing, be aware of that those are going to want to push, because you just came out of 30-second notes. A little more accurate that time. Again. Okay. So that's the first measure. We go to the second measure, okay? We have 16th, 8th notes. So again, if you don't already know this rhythm, let's go ahead and talk about it. We have a 16th note, which means the only thing that can happen next would be whatever precedes or comes after the 16th note, right? So if you're 1T ta, if that 16th note's on 1, the next thing has to happen on T, or if you're 1E anda, on the E of 1. Now any rhythm can start at that point, so don't let seeing an 8th note right there confuse you, okay? So that rhythm, and this is the one I'm looking at right here. Yes. I'm having a hard time getting this on the camera. There we go. That one. Okay. Okay. So if we were to count that, it's if you're a T-ta person, it's 1T ta, 1T ta, 1T ta. All right. Because there's a tie on that last note, we won't play the downbeat of beat 2, right? We have the same rhythm written as we did in beat 1, but we're going to beat 2 with a tie, so we just won't play the first note, but it's the same rhythm, just like with a rest in there, basically. Okay, so I'll count it both ways, depending on how you count, and then I'll play it a few times for you, just this first half. Okay, so I'll give you some. I'll do it with the metronome each time, or we can do clicks here. All right, 1T ta 3. 1T ta 3. If you're an E person, 1E 3. I'll play it a few times, and remember we're going to use natural sticking for this, so right, left, 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 right. Okay. Okay. All right. Now beats 4. Turn the metronome on. Beat 4. Okay, we have the 16th note as our very first note, beginning of beat 4, right? Okay, so again, that means that whatever happens next is going to occur on the E or the T of beat. This is beat 3. I was saying beat 4. Beat 3. Okay, we start with the 16th note. Whatever happens next has to begin on E or T, however you're counting. Okay. And then we're just filling out that space with 16th notes, or 32nd notes, rather. So a way you can sort of put a check on that at first is to just play your right hand for that whole beat 3 is just playing 16th notes. And then we fill in the gaps. Right? Okay, so I'll play that full measure for you a few times. This is measure 2. Okay. So now I'll put that whole first line together. I'll let you hear that. Here. Hopefully this is making sense so far. Right, so now in this first measure, second line here, so this is measure 3, start with an 8th note. Again, don't get tripped up by the way it looks. Just take each individual note if you're trying to figure out the rhythm and where things happen, and just like stick to those rules. Like a rhythm only takes up a certain amount of space, and that space can occur at any point in the beat. Okay, so the way that's written with the single 8th note with the flag, it looks weird, right? It looks kind of funky. But don't let that trip you up. It's just one and we have a quarter note on and, which means that's going to carry us over to the next and, right? If you think about if we have like a quarter note on a downbeat, that gets us to our next downbeat on 2. We've just shifted that same space over to and. Does that make sense? Here would be the in-between, and we basically just push this same space over. Okay, it's kind of a way to visually see that. You have a roll here on that upbeat, and I would recommend using a 6-tuplet hand speed for this tempo. Okay, when you are practicing these etudes slow, don't change from the roll speed that you're actually going to use at tempo. It might not sound much like a roll at a lower speed, but you don't want to train a totally different hand speed into your muscle memory as you're learning the piece. So just play the rhythm with buzzes on it, and it might not be fast enough to actually connect them, but once you bring up the tempo of the whole piece, it will. Okay, so 6-tuplet hand speed there, and remember we're under tempo by about 10 clicks for this part. But if I just took out the roll and just played the check first, and I'll do that with the snares off here so you can hear it maybe. All right. All right. So that's that. Now we'll just put the roll on that. Don't change anything about the hand speed. Sounds like a little on the choppy side. If that was our actual performance tempo, we would go with a slower or a faster hand speed to fill up that space better. But here's how that same roll sounds at tempo. A lot smoother and connected, right? All right, so moving on, that roll, remember, like we said, a quarter note, we just took it from, instead of going from a downbeat to a downbeat, we've just shifted the space over to go from an upbeat to an upbeat. So the release of that roll is on the and of 2, right? And then we have, again, 30-second notes on the or ta, however you're counting, right? So I'll do it once with the check and then once with the roll. Okay, so here's the check, and like that measure, getting through that, getting to beat 3. Okay, only playing the check where the roll is. Sticking I'm using is, I think, all alternating there. Well, I'm doing a right, and then coming out of that, I'm releasing with the right and then starting that 30-second on the right to get me on the right hand again, right there for beat 3. So I'll do it slow so you can see the sticking. Okay, and then here is closer to speed. And so far this whole time we've been at forte, right? We haven't had a dynamic change yet. So now beat 3, you should know this already. It's just a beat of 16th notes. 3E Anna or 3T Theta. Okay, and then we have 4E, and because those are 16th notes, what happens next has to be on the and of beat 4. And we just have 30-second notes, so it's anda, right? With the left hand filling in that space. So like if you just like kind of checked that and like simplified it to work up to it, it's the right hand doing that. 4T1 or 4E1, and then I'm just going to fill in the left hand space there. Tatar thing is often. Okay, so this now gets us to measure 4. Look, our first rhythm is the same rhythm that we had at the beginning. So we should be good there. The next rhythm is similar to it, but it's going to happen because there's no dot on it. That now starts on and, the and of 2, and then the rhythm after that is actually the same thing. What he's doing here is taking this like little 3-note motif, that dig-a-dot, dig-a-dot, and he's doing sort of like a hemiola thing with it, right? He's moving it back. It's on the and then the and then the e. Does that make sense? So like 1 e and, you can hear that? And then the end of the measure is 16th note rest on the downbeat, which means what begins after that occurs on the E or T of 4, and it's just 32nd notes filling out. And again, I would start that on the right hand. And if you just isolate the right hand, it's just playing 16th notes, E and a 1, or T theta 1. I'll click the downbeat, or I'll just use the measure. So I will play that full measure a few times for you, and then I'll back up and put what we've done so far together. You can kind of hear it all together. Whoops, sorry, that was a bad riff there. We'll try it again. Now if we back up a measure and put that much together. I'll get it again. So far so good, hopefully. All right. In this next measure, we all see that it's 8th notes, and what we're doing, I mean, all this is pretty straightforward, but it's probably like, how do I actually play it? Maybe is the question for some of you. You're going to put all of the 8th notes on your right hand, so you'll just be playing and 2, and 3, and 4, and 1. It's all a day crescendo, right? Okay? And then you'll just use the left hand to play the grace notes there. So it's always alternating to be a flam and a drag. So the flam is a single grace note, a drag is 2 grace notes, right? So the left hand. So here we are now in measure 6, and we have this piano half note roll. We've been using sextuplet speeds for our rolls so far. We only have 1, but to me at this tempo, at that dynamic, I think it's going to sound much better, and you'll be able to get softer easier if you use a slightly slower roll. Since this piece already has a 5-lit in it later, you'll be learning that rhythm anyway, so we might as well utilize it. And I think a 5-lit works really great. There are 2 groupings of 5-lits. If you have no idea what I mean by 5-lit or quintuplet, we're just putting a grouping of 5 notes together under 1 beat. So like 16th notes are a grouping of 4 notes all in 1 beat. We're just going to squeeze in another note there. Most commonly, people count this by using just some sort of like 5-syllable phrase or something. So opportunity, university. Okay? So I practice just playing like 5s and like counting like that. Opportunity, opportunity, and they'll alternate, right? Because it's an odd number grouping. Opportunity, opportunity, university, university, 1, whatever it is. Okay. So right there, we're going to play 2 of those back to back. So it'll be like, I think you'll hear that makes for a pretty nice roll. Right? I think I'll play with the 6th tuplet, and I think it just, you're kind of fighting putting too much air into the drum. The second one I did was the 5-lit. To me, it sounds smoother. Okay. And then we've had this rhythm already. This is the same rhythm that we had on beat 3 in measure 2, right? 3E and a 4, 3E and a 4, 3E and a 4, that rhythm. All right. So there we go. And that right there, that point right there, that quarter note on beat 4, that's really our first phrase of music, right? We need to be thinking in terms of phrases with music the same way you read a book or anything like that. You don't read a book like one word at a time, very choppy, right? You see the whole phrase, right, or the paragraph. You read the paragraph and it's grouped nicely and it's like a thought, complete thought. We need to think more in terms of that in music right off the bat, rather than, I think just playing like connect the dots notes until we have them all put together, kind of like a robot. And it's also easier to practice and to get the feel for the piece if you're practicing in phrases. So we've learned our first phrase. Let's try playing the phrase a few times. I'll play it for you here with the Met. This is from the beginning through measure 6. If you find yourself rushing and stuff a little bit, put the training wheels back on some. Okay, what I mean by that is go to a smaller subdivision, right? So that the space is kind of taken care of for you by the metronome. As that starts to get ingrained, take that away, and then start decreasing the volume of the metronome so that you're internalizing time and not leaning on the metronome. Okay? So we'll try it again with the 8th note on and see if I can hold the tempo a little bit better. Kind of hear that at the end there, with it being a phrase. Right? Hopefully that sounded like a musical statement, like an idea that's completed, and now we're going to move on to the next musical idea in the piece, right? So we start getting all these 30-second note patterns and everything right here. Don't get overwhelmed. Again, he's using that same like sort of hemiola type effect, moving something like taking a grouping with a space at the end of that grouping, and it just moves where it starts each time, if that makes sense. So all we have is like this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like a single stroke 5. But instead of doing like that, if that was the downbeat, dagga digga dot, dagga digga dot, dagga digga dot, he's moved it to happen a 16th note earlier each time. So metronome. And this is all a piano. I didn't pay attention to the previous dynamic. And only crescendos to mezzo piano, so not a big crescendo there. That entire time, your right hand is just playing 16th notes straight for an entire measure. And you're filling it in, so hopefully you'll see that. I'll play the left hand on the rim, and you can really see that the right hand just playing 16th notes. metronome so you can hear how it lines up right with the beat. Hopefully we're doing good there. Don't over crescendo there. It's really tempting to like rip. I keep doing it if you hear that. So that'd be something like if I was needing to perform this, I'd really, for me, make sure I'm not over crescendoing there. Okay. So now this next measure is just flams on the E's and Ah's, or if you're a T-top person, the T's and Ta's, right? So I'll count it with the metronome first. 1 E, 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 1. 1 E, 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 1. And I'll play it. You can make a sticking choice here. You could play like 2 rights at the beginning to keep all those flams on your right hand. That idea. It's a decision you can make. You know, if you're trying to make your left hand catch up with flams a little bit more, play some more flams, you know, it might be a good way. It probably wouldn't be bad to just practice that off of both hands and then decide which one you think is going to work best for you. Okay, I wouldn't alternate though, just because this is a concert style piece and we want everything to be consistent, so we don't want to be changing hands because that adds in that variable that can lead to just less than consistent sounds. All right. So that takes us there, and again, a crescendo there up to forte. All right, so this is the 1, 2, 3, 4 first measure of the 5th line. We have 1 E and with a roll on it. Okay, and then that roll continues to 2 E and a. Right, the of 2 is where it like releases. Now you'll notice the second roll is not tied. So we have to put a little bit of a release before we play that and we'll do that. I think we'll use 6 tuplets here. Let's try 6 tuplets and make sure that'll work. All right, a little exaggerated there. Now all I'm doing is playing this. 1 E triplet. But that last note, I'm not buzzing. Can you hear that tap there? And make that very subtle. Don't put any oomph on it. If anything, kind of drop it in a little bit. Right, and that's just going to give it like a little bit of a release. It's really similar to a wind player, like, you know, tonguing notes, okay, versus holding them out. Okay, good. So I'll play that with the metronome for you a few times, and that's kind of might be a funky spot. That's the whole measure. I assumed you guys knew the other rhythm and a quarter note. And then you see that we have a marcato, the rooftop accent, right? It's a marcato accent. How we're going to interpret that is just like, it's an accent with a little bit of extra punch behind it, okay? So I'll play that measure a few times for you. Okay, all right, so now we're on to really what we have after that is just a variation of that previous measure. It's like all the same stuff, we've just filled it out with 30-second notes, okay? So the roll happens in the same place, it releases the same way, everything's the same. The only thing is just a sticking thing at the end because we have 2 30-second notes instead of 1/16th note at the end of beat 2. you'll do another right hand right there. Like you want to start that off the right hand. So what I mean by that is right up right at the end. Those two. I'll do it a little slower.